Well, I am optimistic, to say the least, that we have a commission that is being given a free hand to propose what we feel would be needed to effect the change from a highly centralized government to the federal setup that we are proposing. And the details are being worked out, including prohibiting the president from extending his term or anyone extending the term of the present president. I would like to emphasize that.
Why did you decide to put that in?
Pardon?
Why did you decide to specifically state that there will be no term extension?
Well, because it seems to me that there are some rumors that the president is and his people are trying to work out an extension for his term. But I'm happy to report that number one, the president himself has said no. As a matter of fact, he said that once the federal system is adopted, he will resign and end his term. And I suggested that even if we are able to finish the revision of the Constitution before your term ends, my suggestion is that you stay on until your term ends. And then when your term ends, before your term ends, you can at least show the people that federalism is a good setup by showing that through his administration, the federal setup will accomplish its primary objective, which are really objectives which are really two things. One, to dissipate the causes of the Muslim rebellion, and even the Communist rebellion for that matter, and then as a result, speed up the process of development of the country.
So, Senator, we also know that this initiative is Malacanang-led. This commission was formed by Malacanang.
Yes.
How has Malacanang involved itself with the process of crafting the Constitution?
Actually, all that Malacanang did was to get these people, we who composed the committee now, appointed. We took our oath before him, and that's it. We started to work on our own. And we tried to make sure that the fears of the people are addressed. For example, allowing the perpetuation of political dynasties. We banned that. And to make sure, in fact, I was proposing originally that the ban should cover not only the politician concerned and his immediate family, but up to the fourth civil degree, which means up to first cousin. But the commission decided to limit it only to immediate members of the family. And so that is what the proposal would be. Immediate members of the family, meaning husband, wife, son, daughter. Sabi ko nga, pati mistress, isali dyan. And so, in effect, that's what they are proposing. And suggest that we change the term of the president. Ngayon, 6-year term with no re-election. Under the proposal that we are now refining, the president will be entitled to a 4-year term with 1 re-election. So basically, yan ang the proposals that refer to the presidential candidate. In addition to the fact, and I think this is a very important thing, for the first time, we are requiring educational qualifications because under the present constitution, the provision only speaks of you want to run for barangay, mayor, governor, congressman, senator, president, vice president. All that is required of you is able to read and write. But to my mind, that's not enough because by experience, I've been in the Senate for 18 years. So I encountered some people who were elected to the Senate. I will not name names so as not to embarrass them, but I could sense that they could not fully understand, the debates that were going on, that were conducted in English basically, and that is why I think it's important that the educational requirements should be calibrated. Meaning to say, you run for barangay office, at least you must have an elementary school certificate. Kung tatakbo ka mayor, gobernador, maybe a high school diploma. Mayor, and then governor, congressman, senator, upwards, at least a college diploma.
So just going back to Malacanang's involvement, you're saying you didn't really feel the pressure from Malacanang, so there were no communications between CONCOM and Malacanang?
None whatsoever, which makes us feel confident that we can propose anything, including, for example, matters that might affect the president and his family.
Okay. And sir, another question would be more of the daily grind. This work has also been very grueling for the members. Can you describe what's it been like on a day-to-day basis?
Oh my goodness, if you only knew. We start our work usually at 10 o'clock, but now we are even advancing it to 9:30. And there is no lunch break, ha? Continuous yun, ha? Hanggang at least alas 5. And sometimes beyond 5 kahapon, we adjourned at 5:30. And it was raining hard, but in any event, that's what I want to describe to you, that to my personal satisfaction, I find all the members very dedicated in the discharge of their work. And nobody is complaining, trabaho na trabaho. And the committees you assign, for example, you take care of the preamble, you take care of the Bill of Rights, you take care of the social obligations of the government to the people. The committees perform those rights, those obligations.
And right now, sir, you are chasing after a July 4 to July 9 deadline.
Yeah.
Why this deadline? And would you say you're...
Because actually the president wanted our work to be done on time for his SONA. And the SONA of the president will take place, I think, if I'm not mistaken, on July 23. So, ang proposal namin, we give the, more or less, if you want to call it a tentative draft to the president by July 4, and he and his staff can examine it, and if there are things that we have to revise, he can send it back, and then we can work on it on time for his SONA. That's the main idea.
All right. And you want to give it through a ceremony in Malacanang? Will there be an event that will commemorate the submission?
I did not quite get your question.
Will there be an event or like a ceremony when you submit?
Well, probably a formal turnover. I think our chairman, the Chief Justice, will just hand over the finished work, you might say, to the president or his whoever he assigns.
Sir, how long do we expect this draft constitution to be?
How long?
How long? Would you have an idea of the number of pages?
Oh my goodness, probably as thick as this one.
With annotation?
With annotations, yeah, siyempre.
Okay. And sir, right now, I believe you are gunning for a final en banc vote on June 30. So what are now the provisions being discussed?
Well, we are now refining if I remember correctly, particularly the social and economic provisions, and then the manner of, you might say, yung bang representation of the marginalized sector. We're trying to make sure that the number of congressmen and women which is being proposed under the by this constitutional committee The number is 400. So there is a proposal that at least 40% of that must represent the marginalized sectors. And so, you have to refine that to make sure that the original so-called party list, which has been abused, will no longer be repeated this time. So medyo masalimuot yun in Tagalog. We're trying to look for ways to ensure that the political parties will not, take advantage of that and create, party list namin, pero actually they're the ones to benefit from it, not the marginalized sector.
Sir, how confident are you that the Congress today will adopt at least a majority of the,
Well,
draft?
we will pray that they will adapt, but as you can already sense, our work is only recommendatory. So when you recommend something, that's up to the one to whom you recommend whether to adopt it or not. We just hope that the Congress will see that our proposals are not partisan in any way, not intended to benefit any particular party, but the nation.
Okay. And sir, have you been in communication with any member of Congress or any committee, for example, on the updates with the draft?
No, not really. As a matter of fact, we are waiting for their action on the BBL because nasubmit na sa kanila yon. Pero up to now, wala pa yung kanilang final draft on the BBL, for example. But we are already refining some issues connected with the Bangsamoro entity.
What do you think will help in persuading Congress to adopt at least critical parts of the draft that you come up with?
Well, number one, we need the support of media and our people because obviously we cannot do this alone. And if Congress will have to be sort of persuaded, the people must speak out. And we cannot do that without the support of media. That is why media must remain free in this country.
Sir, will the President's support also help?
Of course. And as a matter of fact, the reason why there is what seems to me an automatic support by the people, by a majority of the people, for the shift to federalism. The reason is that the President has been espousing that proposal, although without the details. Wala pa mga detalye. That's why we are working out the details here.
Sir, were there times when public sentiment influenced the decisions of Hong Kong?
I'm not too sure that there has been any such time, at least during the course of our deliberations. Wala naman.
For example, yung anti-political dynasty provision,
Well, yes.
expired?
Maybe that particular aspect. And then our claim over our historical rights, over the Spratlys, Scarborough, Benham Rice, as integral parts of the territory of the Philippines, probably that has been, parang you might say influenced by, discussions with the public, because we could understand that many of our people are apprehensive that China might be encroaching into our territory, even if they claim that they are our friends. But if they will eat up our territory, we have to protest. And so the thing is that, however, we are not advocating that we go to war with China. I mean, that would be a foolish solution. But certainly, we can go to the United Nations. Yung mga United Nations tribunals the law of the sea. There are such tribunals.
So, sir, are you in support of publicly protesting China's actions, recent
Of
actions?
course, of course.
Publicly, because right now the administration would rather fight a protest but not publicize.
Oh,
What do you think?
you know, one of the things that the president has done, which I think is a good idea, is to befriend countries with which we were antagonistic, years back. China, Russia, parang when I was still a young boy, parang kontra yung mga countries na yun. But today, the president wants to befriend them. But at the same time, we want to make sure that even if we befriend them, we do not allow them to eat up our own territory.
Does that mean publicly protesting their actions?
Yes, if it is necessary.
Do you think it's necessary now, given the recent
We have won already at one of the United Nations tribunals. In 2016, there was already a decision in our favor. But mukhang hindi ata nire-recognize ng China. And that is why I am saying that even as I was one of those who voted before to remove the U.S. bases. Remember, there was a proposal to remove the U.S. bases. But I think in the ultimate analysis, when we talk about allies to defend our interests, I think the United States is a more dependable ally. And the reason is that the U.S. is a democracy. For example, if I do not agree with what the U.S. is doing, I can sue the U.S. in their own courts in the U.S. But can you do that to China or, any of these new friends that we are, trying to embrace as friends? To repeat, I am not against making friends with China or with the Soviet Union for that matter. But the thing is that we cannot allow anyone to eat up any part of our territory. Hindi po pwede.